Welcome to the Ancestry Seeking podcast, where your family history becomes your greatest legacy. I'm Barbara Beauregard, your host, and this is Season 2, Episode 2. Let's begin. One of the fastest ways people become overwhelmed with family history is by trying to save everything at once. Every paper, every photo, every document, every story. And when everything feels important, nothing feels manageable. Today's episode is about bringing clarity and calm into that moment, because not everything matters equally, and not everything needs your attention right now. Knowing what matters most to save and what can safely wait is one of the most important skills in genealogy and legacy work. And it's also one of the most freeing. Let's start with why this feels so hard. When people begin working on their family history, they're often surrounded by piles, physical or digital, of material that has accumulated over years or decades. Boxes of photographs, folders full of papers, files scattered across computers and flash drives, emails with attachments, online trees, DNA results, and the pressure sounds like this: if I don't deal with all of this now, I might lose it. That fear is understandable, but it leads to a dangerous assumption that everything must be handled immediately, and that's simply not true. Preservation is not about speed, it's about priorities. One of the most helpful shifts you can make is separating what feels urgent from what is truly important. Urgent items shout for your attention. Important items quietly wait, but matter deeply. For example, a stack of unsorted papers may feel urgent because it's visible and stressful. But a story your parent has never written down, one that only they can tell, is important in a much deeper way. If you lose a paper, you may be able to find it again. If you lose a story, it's often gone forever. That's why this episode is not about organizing everything. It's about choosing wisely. So let's talk about what matters most. If you had limited time, limited energy, or limited attention, and most of us do, these are the things that deserve priority. 1. Stories that live. Only in people's stories are always the most fragile part of family history. They don't exist in files. They don't live in databases. They live in people. Once a person is gone, their stories often go with them. That makes personal memories, lived experiences, and oral history the most time-sensitive material you have. This includes childhood memories, immigration experiences, family traditions, stories behind major decisions, personal reflections on hardship, joy, or change. If you save nothing else right now, save stories. Even short notes count. Even imperfect recordings matter. 2. Information only you can identify. There is another category that deserves early attention: items only you can explain. This includes unlabeled photographs, documents without context, heirlooms whose stories live only in your memory. If you know who is in a photo, where it came from, or why it mattered, write that down. Future generations may inherit the item, but without your explanation, its meaning may be lost. Preserving context is just as important as preserving the item itself. 3. Materials at risk of physical loss. Some materials deserve priority simply because they are fragile. Old photographs, fading papers, newsprint, documents stored in basements, attics, or garages. These don't need to be perfectly organized right now. They just need to be protected from damage. Sometimes preservation is as simple as moving items to a safer place, scanning them, or taking photos with your phone so the information isn't lost. Now let's talk about the other side of the equation: what can wait and why. That's okay, because knowing what can wait is what gives you breathing room. 1. Perfect organization. Systems. You do not need the perfect filing system to begin. You do not need to decide on software, binders, or color-coded folders right away. Systems evolve as you work. They do not need to be perfect at the start. Choosing something simple and temporary is often better than waiting for the right system. 2. Solving every mystery. Unanswered questions can feel uncomfortable. Unknown parents, conflicting dates, missing records, but you do not need to solve every mystery before preserving what you already have. Research can always continue. Stories and context cannot. 3. Digitizing everything at once. Digitization is important, but it doesn't need to happen all at once. Scanning thousands of photos or documents is overwhelming for almost everyone. Instead, digitize with intention. Start with what is most meaningful or most fragile. Everything else can be done in stages. If you're unsure where to start, here's a simple way to decide. Let's create a simple priority framework. Ask yourself 3 questions. 1. Would this be impossible to replace? 2. Would this be impossible to recreate later? 3. Would I regret losing this? If the answer is yes, it deserves priority. If the answer is no, it can probably wait. This framework removes guilt and replaces it with clarity. One of the most damaging beliefs in genealogy is the idea that preservation is all or nothing. Well, it's not all or nothing. Either everything is saved and organized or nothing counts. That simply isn't true. Preservation happens in layers. Each story you save, each note you write, each photo you label. These are not small things. They are cumulative acts of care. Let's imagine a very real scenario. You have a box of old family photos. Some are labeled, many are not. Instead of scanning everything, organizing everything, and researching everyone immediately, you choose one afternoon to do one thing. You take out 10 photos. You write down what you know about each one, names, locations, why the photo matters. You put those notes with the photos or save them digitally. That single act may preserve more meaning than scanning hundreds of unlabeled images. That's what prioritization looks like. Preserving family history is not a race. Give yourself permission to go slow. It is not a deadline-driven project. It is a relationship with the past, the present, and the future. Going slow does not mean you are failing. It means you are being intentional. Here's your action step for this episode. Choose one category, a story, a photo, a document, and ask yourself, what matters most about this? Write that down. You don't need to organize it perfectly. You don't need to store it forever yet. Just capture what gives it meaning. That is preservation. In the next episode, we'll talk about one of the biggest places people get stuck: paper, photos, and digital files, and why the format matters less than you think. Thank you for listening to the Ancestry Seeking podcast. For free guides, worksheets, and legacy tools, visit ancestryseeking.com. You don't have to save everything at once. You just have to save what matters most.